Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Wake Up with Haley, Rise, Shine, and Live Aligned. I am so excited for our conversation today as it is very timely with what is going on in our financial world. I would like to welcome my dear friend, Kristin Young, to the stage with us today. Miss Kristin Young is a private wealth advisor with Ameriprise Financial Services and a very good friend of mine. She is also my personal advisor. Welcome, Kristin. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you so much for having me, Haley. I love watching this in the morning, and it's an honor to be here.
Well, thank you. I could not be more excited to have our conversation today. Of course, we have so many things going on in our financial world, as you know, usual, right? There's so much to talk about that we're going to fit into our conversation today. But before we do, I just want to share with everybody, you are a private wealth advisor with Ameriprise Financial. You have been my personal advisor for many years. You are also a very dear friend of mine who has worked with me on multiple nonprofits in our community. You're just an amazing human. So will you give everyone just a little bit of background on your experience and the history of your practice before we jump into the questions that I've got prepared for us today?
Yes, thank you. And you two are one of my favorite humans as well.
Thank you.
It's just fun to be here. And yes, we're going to do a deep dive on some of the things I think are top of mind for people. I've been working as a financial advisor for about 3 decades. I'm not sure I like to admit that yet, but my partner, Kara Morin, and our team, we're situated in a little condominium here right in the Woodlands, Texas. And we work with all types of people, but what has ended up happening in our practice is we're working with people who are sort of at that point where they're looking at some different life transitions. And I think a lot of people think about just retirement when I say that word, but there's so many different things really that we're working with people on. We're looking at the impact of aging parents is a big one right now. A lot of job transitions are going on for people. Adult children moving out,
Yes.
adult children moving in, adult children hopefully moving back out. So, but we tend to we're specialized really kind of in helping people with those different life transitions.
You do, and you do such an amazing job. I can't wait to get to our discussion because I'm excited for you to share with everyone what my experience has been with you and Kara and the team. Before we jump in, I like to start our show off with a piece of gratitude. So before we kick off, would you share something this morning that you are grateful for that's going on in your personal or your professional life?
I love that you start your show off like this. I have a long list of things for which I'm grateful, but right now I'm particularly grateful for just having become a grandma for the first time. In fact, a few minutes before we hopped on, my son and grandson Judah FaceTimed me so I could see his sweet little face in the morning. But it's just brought just a different perspective to me about new life again and watching my own son become a parent. And it's just caused me to really appreciate new life.
Absolutely. Congratulations. That's so exciting. And I'm sure the joys of being a mom and then watching your son learn to be a parent have got to be insurmountable, right? That's so fun.
It's really neat. It's really,
That's
and he's doing such a great job. It, like I said, it's fun to watch your own adult children make these choices.
yes. And I know that grandbaby is cute. I have seen his picture. He's
Thank
precious.
you.
So well, I'm going to jump off of that with my piece of gratitude. It's family related as well. I'm really grateful for my sister and her husband. They have been doing such an amazing job. My father is ill and my mom is retired, and they are currently on a 9-day trip in Hawaii with my mom, with the grandkids, giving her the best trip ever. And of course, set up my dad having care so that everybody could go and have a free, fun time without worrying about his care. And so I'm just so grateful for them for doing that for my mom and for our family. And it was, as we're going to talk today, it's those things that as we age and as life happens, right, our family rallies together and we figure out how to make life transitions as smooth as possible. So that's my piece of gratitude this morning. I'm living vicariously through all of their amazing Hawaii pictures that they've been on
Right.
for the past 5 days. So it's great. It's great. Well, let's kick off our discussion. I know we're going to start with the biggest question right now that I think is probably common amongst everyone, and that is, will you please give us your bird's eye view on the current market?
Yes, I will definitely. Let's just, what a year, right? What a year that
Yes.
we walked, we walked into this year knowing certain things were happening and were going to happen. But when you think about all of the big things that we're dealing with right now in the financial markets and in your market, Haley,
Yes.
we're dealing with insurmountable inflation. Therefore, we're dealing with the Federal Reserve, who's trying to kind of manage that by raising interest rates. We've got a war going on in between Ukraine and Russia. I think consumers we're just feeling a little bit nervous, and they call that weak consumer sentiment, is sort of the fancy words for that. It's still hard to get stuff, so those supply chain constraints we're having to deal with, just to name a few.
Mhm.
And
Right.
so all of those things have then caused a historical bond market. We've not had a bond market this volatile, and we have an equally volatile stock market again, which is causing a lot of nervousness just in the hearts of the investor. So there's a lot of emotion, and there are a lot of real things going on that we need to manage well so we don't make mistakes that we'll regret later.
Yes, yes. No, I love that you say that. And I know you and I have talked over the past few months. Um, we get very similar questions in, do I sell? Do I buy? Do I stay? Do I go? Because of course the emotion starts to elevate as things happen in the world. And of course, I think you and I are aligned in the opinion of the less media we take in, sometimes the better. Um, but I love that the process that you take us through as clients really helps address that. And I would love for you to just share with us, as we navigate the financial market, and especially as we go through life transitions, and then you add to that the things that are going on in a volatile bond market, or when we have wars going on across the world, that obviously brings up a lot of fear. And it just like you said, it can really cause us to make rash decisions if we're not being guided properly.
Hmm.
So, will you take us through the process of how you and your team really gather information from your clients and then give advice? Give us a little bit of background on that.
Yes, thanks for asking that question. And there's really two components to that. And the more obvious component is we are going to be sort of collecting all things financial about somebody, but that's really kind of the easy part of the data collection. The other piece that we spend a lot more time on, I think it's one of the things that really does differentiate our team from other people who do this, is that we're trying to help people articulate and define what their life purpose is. And if we just were to ask the question, okay, Haley, what's your life purpose? We get these sort of blank faces like, oh gosh, honey, I can't believe you drugged me to her to talk about this stuff. This is really uncomfortable. And so through that process of navigating that ideal question or the answer to that question, we ask a lot of other leading questions that will come up to really help define where are we trying to go with all your money, all your investments, all your strategies.
Yes.
And so depending on where somebody is, we may just ask questions like, what's important about money to you? Or would you like to push reset on perhaps one of the decisions that you made? What do you want more of
Mhm.
when you think about entering into this life transition? So we do a lot of questioning. We do a lot of facilitating if you have another person involved in this process, because we really are ultimately trying to figure out where are you trying to go financially.
Yes. And that's so important, right? In the world of business, we're always talking about, as a business owner, what is the eventual exit strategy from the business? And I think that overlays very similar, right? It's where are we going and what is the purpose of the goals that we're setting? And you guys do an amazing job at that. I know years ago when I first met with you, it immediately calmed my nerves of, oh, I actually, now at this stage in the market, I'm not actually that worried about it because I know that we have a plan, and the plan is in alignment with my goals and my financial responsibilities for the foreseeable future into, my age as I, move down the season of life.
Welcome
Um,
to the club.
yes, I know. I know. It's just, it's a great thing. We're gaining wisdom every year, right?
Yes, we are.
That kind of parlays into my next question, and it was really, how do you help navigate the stressful aspects of the financial planning and the investing, right? Because obviously there's stress around it, and I know that one experience that I was really grateful for you and your team around was, I have a 79-year-old aunt who lost her husband, and then she became a widow, and her husband always managed their stocks and their financial plans, and he would do day trading, and he was just very involved. And when she lost him, it became a very fear inspiring, very stressful season for her. And when I finally got her into your office and got her to sit down with you, immediately it was like a ton of bricks were just lifted off her shoulders. And so I was so grateful to you all for that. But just talk us through a little bit more in regards to the actual planning and investing, and how do you strategically do that to minimize the stress?
You and I have shared so often how similar our businesses are.
Mm.
You're helping people find their dream home, or a home that works, or a place that will work really well for them in the given moment.
Yes.
And so and especially right now, when there's just a lot of ancillary things that are causing fear for people and stress. um, I think we really try in my practice at all times to really help people focus on those things that you can control.
Mhm.
There's so many things we can't control, not the least of which are the financial markets. We tell people we don't know from day to day what's going to be happening.
Right.
And so by creating things that will help you build confidence, and some really simple things are, we always want to make sure that people have money that's not invested in the market, that's on the sidelines, so that when things come up, whether it's emergencies or opportunities, that we have enough money that we can access without having to sell something.
Right.
So, cash reserves is a great example of trying to mitigate some of that stress. I think just being aware of how you spend money, and people
Yes.
don't like to spend a lot of time looking at their budgets, but I say just get on some level of frequency where you're looking at your stuff, and you're making yourself aware of what you have and the resources that you have. I think another really basic thing is to communicate, not only with, if you're in this, if you're in partnership with this, with your spouse or partner, if you're doing this by yourself, communicating with your team of financial professionals is really essential to let them know how you're feeling, and basically what you need. And then I think a big one right now is to really pay attention to just your own mental health.
Mhm.
And I'm really encouraging people to do, I said, read more and watch and listen less. And I'm talking about primarily to TV news and that kind of stuff. So go to those. I say any big financial company out there, if you've got a work plan and it's sponsored by a particular company, go read on their website. There's really good information for people. And I'm finding that that's providing people less stress than just the noise that we're hearing so much on the media right now.
Absolutely. And I think it's such great advice because, when we're stressed, some of us can tend to want to do the head in the sand and just not know, not look at anything. And to your point, if that includes our personal finances, we're really doing a disservice to our own nervous system, right? Because that knowledge actually calms ourselves. And if we're keeping tabs on, monthly expenses, as you said, or having a sense of a budget, or understanding what is really going on, that knowledge can actually calm us so that we're not constantly living in the state of fear of the unknown from a personal level. And then I agree. I think that, we want to stay informed, but it really does become a balance of how much of the media and the news do we take in? Because as we all know, a lot of the media is built around creating excitement and interest. And with that is going to come this emotional roller coaster that might not always benefit us from making strategic financial decisions. So I love your advice of really going to the experts and reading. That way we are putting our own emotional balance on it versus watching things too much and really being at the mercy of whatever emotions the media is trying to drive.
Right, right.
It's really great advice. When it comes to tools or tricks of the trade or any budgeting systems or apps, do you have anything like that that you would recommend to us that might be easy or helpful for us to use?
There are so many great tools out there, and this is years ago when everything started becoming available online. I got asked a lot, or does this make you nervous about your own job? I said, absolutely not. It's just the opposite. We
Right.
want you to access tools. We want people to get, involved and have those things available to them. So I would say again, almost any financial company, Ameriprise being one of them, there are so many wonderful tools, different calculators, different worksheets that you can. We have them in our office, but you can almost any financial website's going to have those. We happen to personally like Quicken just because I am a business owner. I know you're a business owner too, and I think companies like Quicken also have just really great user-friendly type tools. Basically that you can utilize. The other thing that we really encourage people to do is to try to stay as financially organized as possible. And one of the things that we're finding is there's lots of places online where you can actually house your financial documentation online. And so then the accessibility to that is so easy. So keeping all of your tax documents, all of your estate documents, current lists of, of who your financial professionals are. And then the other thing too, that as we, especially as we help people who perhaps lost a spouse, you want to make sure that each of you is familiar with what your current passwords are.
Yes.
So I think just being aware of where all that information
Yes.
is really important.
It's huge, right? It absolutely is because we never know when something could happen that is an emergency, or even you might not be able to contact someone and you need
Right.
to get access to things. No, I love those pieces of advice, and it's interesting. I remember thinking back to when I first joined your firm, and I have had a financial advisor since I was 18 years old. Obviously, when I was very young, it was if I say $50 a month, right, and I put that on my budget, it was a big deal when I was 18. And as I transitioned over to you all and your team, you really helped me elevate and go to the next level of having the resources of getting online and looking at the retirement tracker and understanding, okay, what's the benchmark of what I need to hit every year in order for 5 years for me to be here, and 10 years and 20 years. And then you're absolutely right. The Quicken technology and even just running a basic budget, I've noticed it helps me, silly little changes, right? Like I'll look at the budget and go, oh my, I spent what on Starbucks last month? We need to tighten that up, right? So just the the advice of the knowledge and tracking your own finances is so powerful to reduce the stress and to help you be strategic and not emotional. And that's what I keep hearing from you this morning and in all of our work together is don't allow the emotion to really overtake our strategic financial decisions, because that's when we can make mistakes. And so that is great advice. Thank you. Um, as we have talked about transitions in life and aging parents and the stress and obviously planning for retirement, I would love to hear your insights on when do you recommend that someone hire a wealth advisor or a financial planner, and when do you recommend really starting to plan for retirement? Is there a specific age? Is it when you become a professional? Give us some background on what you give advice to for the younger generation.
Again, so timely. I was just talking to Eric a little bit about this morning, and you hit the nail on the head earlier. And time is our most powerful tool. So even if it's starting with as little as $25 a month, I say to people, we want to get in the discipline of saving for something.
Yes.
Now, when you're 20 years old coming out of college, that may not necessarily be for retirement, but it's just getting in the discipline of saving for, a new car or the down payment for a house.
Right.
So personally, and of course this is my business and I love it, but I think as early as possible that people can actually start putting things in place. Retirement is really that point in time when you're choosing to work, so that you have enough built up to be able to provide the income and the lifestyle for you so you don't have to work. So for some people that can be as early as in their 50s. For some people that just love working, they may choose to keep working even though they are able to retire. So I would say that as early as possible is when we should start thinking about it. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to hire a financial professional, but you can. I think there's wonderful and often many things that are available for people through their work, whether it's just basic retirement plans or financial education. I wish there was more financial education, and that's probably a topic for another one of these sessions.
Right.
We don't do a good job of educating our young people.
No.
But there's great tools available for people through their workplace, and we encourage people to use those. When you get to the point in time where either you don't want to do it anymore or things are becoming more complicated, that's probably a great time to just have a conversation with a financial advisor. And I tell people all the time, I'll have a conversation with anybody because I want everybody to learn as much as possible,
right,
about the things that are available to them.
right.
The other thing that I think we need to keep in mind also is that we're living longer. You've talked about your folks, and I have an aging mom now. So we are living much longer, and that's having a real impact financially on our financial plans. And the other thing is that tools that our parents and grandparents were accustomed to depending on, like pensions and Social Security, are just they're not going to be available for younger people. And so the onus is even more on our shoulders to be able to plan well. And that's where we circle back around to say that's where that issue of time is so powerful for you to be able to start saving, start getting some of that tax deferral really working in your favor. And the other thing that I will say in terms of just, kind of when people should get started, what you're really doing is you're beginning to really build a team. So you're building a team of a financial advisor, perhaps someone to help you with your taxes, perhaps someone to help you with your estate planning. And then you have the other financial experts. So you and I have talked a lot about, I have the Haley Garcias on my clients' teams also, because you need those real estate professionals, because as you know, real estate is a very important part of somebody's overall financial picture.
Yes, and I'm so glad that you brought that up because it's really interesting how we do overlap so very much, and it leads me to one of my last questions for you, and that is, we both sit with clients and we have investment strategy meetings. A lot of folks will call me and say, do I buy, do I sell? And I basically sit down and I do a very similar process to what you and your team do, only it's about their real estate property, not their investment portfolio. And I know that you and I joke all the time because we get asked the same question, like, well, do I invest in real estate or the stock market, or should I sell real estate or should I sell my stocks? They both go hand in hand. So I would love to hear your last piece of advice for if someone says, do I buy or sell? And I'm laughing right now because I do this to you, right? We all need the person for our advice. I call you all the time and go, so I'm thinking of buying this property. Should I or shouldn't I? But it's the natural process of really trying to vet out our correct decision. And so to that question of, should we buy real estate? Should we sell real estate? Should we buy stocks? Should we sell stocks? What is your piece of advice right now when that question comes up?
Well, my silly answer is it's always the right time to buy everything because, and it doesn't necessarily mean what we want to do is be strategic about what we're buying. And this really goes to the technical part of financial advising and investment management. And just like with you, I mean, and let's just focus on real estate a little bit right now because there's all different ways to buy real estate.
Right.
But and real estate's a critical component to your overall investment portfolio. Obviously, it's going to provide you with a place in which you're going to live, so your primary residence. But there's wonderful ways to buy real estate to create investment income in the future.
Mhm.
And so there's different ways to buy real estate at different times depending on what's happening in the financial markets.
Yes.
So I and the same goes true with our stocks and bonds. So when we're looking at that famous pie chart that people always look at, that's when we start to get what is called tactical. So we get in there and we figure out when is the right time to buy certain kinds of stocks or certain kinds of bonds or certain kinds of real estate. We have to be, and this is where we rely on experts like yourself and experts like me, because we can also make bad decisions. We can also buy something that we shouldn't have bought at a particular time or sell something. I tell people it is just as important to be aware of when we should sell something in the portfolio, real estate or otherwise, as when we should buy. So we do a lot of coaching in this office about helping people think through those questions and the answers to those questions that will then help them direct those, is it the right time to buy or right time to sell? But we think real estate is a very critical component to the portfolio, just as important as equities and the bond pieces.
I agree. No, thank you for that. And you're absolutely right. It's, we'll see, I know I will see clients, and I know you do the same, at an event or out at a restaurant, and they're like, "Hey, should I sell right now? What should I do?" And it's so difficult because my answer is always, well, it depends on what the goal is, and it depends on the entire rest of your portfolio. So let's sit down and talk about that, because there are so many dynamics to it, and it really does play a piece in what is the goal behind the decision, what outcome are we seeking to find, and like you said, there are yes and no answers to, is it the right time, depending on the other answers.
And I think also in the last just couple of seconds here, I think it's also helping really going back to managing that stress and managing the emotions so people
Yes.
don't sell, for instance, at a time that they then in the future would regret. So it's
Correct.
really taking a look at making sure that you have resources on the outside to provide income if you need those, so that you're not selling something, for instance, in the stock market or bond market right now that we know eventually will circle back around to coming back up.
Absolutely. Absolutely. No, it's great advice. Thank you so much for all of your tips and pieces of advice today. I am so grateful for you and your team and all the wisdom that you impart on a regular basis. As we wrap up, Kristin, if someone would like to set, I know you offer complimentary meetings to just have a beginning stages of a strategic conversation. If someone would like to reach out to you and your team, how can they find you, and what's the best way to connect?
Well, Haley, also thank you for any chance I get a chance to just be with you and be around you. I think we philosophically feel the same way about how we run our businesses, so it's been really fun and an honor to be here. And yes, I would love to visit with anybody that would be interested. We do offer a complimentary consultation. Probably the easiest way to get in touch with us is to reach out onto our website, which is KristinLYoung.com. All of our contact information is on there, and you can reach anybody on our team. And we'd love to meet with you virtually or in person at our office. So thanks for that.
Absolutely. Thank you. And I know, just as you mentioned that, I remember setting up a meeting, and my little brother came in when he first became a fireman, and he had a meeting with you all, and you helped set him up and give him direction for his investments and at the beginning stages of his career. So it really is a gift. So thank you for that. And I'm so happy I got to see you today, and thank you for being on the show. I know I will be in your office for my quarterly review next week, so I will see you then. And for everyone who joined us today, thank you so much for joining. Our next show will be August 16th at 7:30 sharp. So thanks for joining us, and we'll see you on the next episode of Rise, Shine, and Live Aligned. Have a wonderful day.
Have a great day.